So, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is the most recent big-screen cinematic entry into the beloved sci-fi franchise, yet also remains one of the most controversial and divisive. Following the release of 2017 similarly polarizing The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker was positioned as a course correction of sorts. Yet for those who enjoyed The Last Jedi's radical rejection of sentimentality and fan service, they saw this follow-up as a wildly cynical overcorrection. But whatever your own opinion of the movie though, there's little denying the absolutely fascinating nature of The Rise of Skywalker's production, from the last-minute change in directorial personnel to the rush shooting schedule and everything else in between. And that's what we're here to talk about today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 20 things you didn't know about Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Number 20. Rian Johnson was offered to direct after Colin Trevorrow's departure. Now, it's no secret that Colin Trevorrow of Jurassic World fame was originally hired to direct The Rise of Skywalker, yet ultimately exited the project amid creative differences, albeit still retaining a story by credit in the final film. The Force Awakens director J.J. Abrams was of course drafted in to replace him, yet before he secured the gig, Lucasfilm did reach out to The Last Jedi's Rian Johnson to see if he was interested in the job, but Johnson refused, feeling that he needed time off between The Last Jedi and what would have been his next project, Knives Out. Plus, it's fair to assume that participating in The Rise of Skywalker would have pushed back production on Knives Out, which was clearly a passion project for Johnson. And above all else, can anyone blame him for not returning after the volcanic fan response to The Last Jedi? Number 19. The plot was changed massively during production. Since the film's release, numerous cast and crew members have gone on the record to attest that The Rise of Skywalker's story was changed significantly during production, with rewrites continuing throughout shooting. The earlier drafts of the shooting script didn't even feature Emperor Palpatine, while various discarded elements included Kylo Ren receiving the Sith Wayfinder from a spider-like alien called the Oracle, and later torturing Chewbacca, Finn having Force sensitivity, and Kylo Ren even surviving. It wasn't long before the film's editor, Marianne Brandon, even admitted that the production was rushed to meet Disney's set-in-stone release date, and looking at the messy final product, it's clear that there was no unified vision of what Abrams or anybody else at Lucasfilms wanted it to be. Number 18. Adam Driver did all of his own stunts. Now, a lot of actors like to say that they did all or at least most of their own stunts on big blockbuster films, but in Adam Driver's case, he actually has the receipts to back it up. The Rise of Skywalker's stunt coordinator, Eunice Huthart, confirmed in an interview that Driver truly did do all of his own stunt work, such that his stunt double never actually suited up. He said, "Yeah, he did do all of his own stunts, and lucky for him, most actors will always say to me, I want to do all my own stunts. Sometimes they're just not capable. They want to be in character, they want to be a part of everything, but they just can't do it where it's at a believable level as the character should be." Adam Driver, on the other hand, is as good as any stuntman. He's absolutely fantastic, and he worked so hard. He did everything. The stunt double never even got into costume on The Rise of Skywalker. Adam Driver did everything. Number 17. Rose has just 76 seconds of screen time. One of the most prominent new characters in the sequel trilogy was Resistance mechanic Rose, who first showed up in The Last Jedi and quickly became a romantic interest for Finn. Despite the generally positive response to the character, actress Kelly Marie Tran received a torrent of sexist and racist abuse following the film's release. Numerous public figures came out in support of Tran, and so it was hugely surprising for fans when Rose ended up having nothing more than a glorified cameo in The Rise of Skywalker, appearing on screen for a grand total of just 76 seconds in the 142-minute movie. Many interpreted this as J.J. Abrams and Lucasfilm kowtowing to the misogynists and racists who complained about Rose's inclusion in The Last Jedi. However, one of the film's writers later stated that Rose was supposed to have a larger role opposite Princess Leia, but when some of the digitally altered footage to facilitate the late Fisher's inclusion didn't meet the required standard, her part had to be trimmed down. As for Tran, she was diplomatic about her reduced role, saying at the 2020 Oscars, "At the end of the day, I got to be part of something bigger than me, and that's really special." Number 16. Rey was almost related to Obi-Wan. Perhaps the biggest question mark following the release of The Last Jedi related to Rey's parentage. Though Kylo Ren claimed that she was born to nobody junkers, many fans suspected that J.J. Abrams would retcon this in The Rise of Skywalker and reveal that Kylo was lying. And while that did indeed happen, with Rey eventually being revealed to be Palpatine's granddaughter, numerous alternate scenarios were considered throughout production. In an interview after the film's release, Daisy Ridley revealed that an early idea involved her being related to Obi-Wan Kenobi. They pitched the film to me and were like, "Oh yeah, Palpatine's the granddaddy," and I was like, "Awesome." Then 2 weeks later, he was like, "We're not so sure," so it kept changing. Even as we were filming, I wasn't sure what the answer was going to be. At the beginning, they were toying with, like, an Obi-Wan connection. While fans remain sharply divided on the issue of Rey's parentage, it's highly likely that having her be related to Obi-Wan would have felt ham-fisted and inauthentic. Number 15. A stolen copy of the script ended up on eBay because of John Boyega. A few weeks before the film's release, J.J. Abrams reported that a copy of the script ended up on eBay during production, and in order to prevent spoilers leaking online, a Disney employee quickly purchased the script for an undisclosed sum after verifying its authenticity. Abrams wouldn't disclose which actor let their screenplay slip, though mere days later, John Boyega admitted that he was the one. He said, "Let me just tell you how this one went down. I was moving apartments and I left the script under my bed. I was just like, you know what, I'll leave it under my bed. When I wake up in the morning, I'll take it and move. But my boys came over and, we started partying a little and the script just stayed there. Then a few weeks later, a cleaner comes in, finds the script and puts it on eBay for like £65. So the person did not know the true value." Talk about a close call, right? Number 14. The Baboo Frick puppet required 5 puppeteers. As divisive as the movie was, most of us can agree that one of its surefire breakout characters was Baboo Frick, the adorable alien droid smith who helps the heroes by retrieving information from C-3PO's memory banks. Despite being just 9 inches tall, Baboo Frick's mechanical complexity required the combined efforts of 5 puppeteers to convincingly bring him to life. These puppeteers were kitted out in green screen costumes which were then digitally erased during post-production. In addition to voicing Baboo, actress Shirley Henderson also learned how to puppet Baboo's mouth on set, in turn helping her get in sync with the crew for improvisation. Number 13. Leia's wardrobe and hair were changed with CGI. It's no secret that Carrie Fisher's role in The Rise of Skywalker was achieved by digitally manipulating unused material from The Force Awakens, namely altering the backgrounds of her scenes and re-editing dialogue to give it new context. Beyond that, VFX was also used to change Leia's wardrobe and add grey colouring to her hair, ensuring that her appearance fell in line with how she looked in The Last Jedi. As tricky as Leia's inclusion in the movie was, the VFX team evidently did a rock-solid job under enormous time constraints. After all, who among us ever noticed that Fisher's clothes and hair were also CGI? Number 12. Mark Hamill voiced the alien Booleo. Just as Mark Hamill had a secret second role in The Last Jedi, playing the monocled alien Baboo Skay on Canto Bight, he also had a sneaky second part in The Rise of Skywalker. Beyond reappearing as the Force ghost of Luke Skywalker, Hamill also provided the voice for Booleo, an alien miner who aided the Resistance during the movie. The character was performed on set by Aidan Cook, while Hamill slyly took his credit under the pseudonym Patrick Williams, a moniker that combines the first names of his 2 brothers. Now perhaps Hamill should become the Stan Lee of the Star Wars movies at this point, a kind of good luck charm who shows up to play a random minor character in each film. Wouldn't that be great? Number 11. Ian McDermott was skeptical about returning. Emperor Palpatine's resurrection remains one of The Rise of Skywalker's most divisive plot points, and even Ian McDermott himself wasn't exactly sure about it, given the character's pretty concrete demise in The Return of the Jedi. And during an interview at the film's UK premiere, he said, "I thought I was dead. I thought he was dead. Because when we did Return of the Jedi and I was thrown down that chute to galactic hell, he was dead." And I said, "Oh, does he come back?" And George Lucas said, "No, he's dead." So I just accepted that. But then, of course, I didn't know I was going to be doing the prequels, so in a sense he wasn't dead because we went back to revisit him when he was a young man. But I was totally surprised by this. One can only imagine that a dump truck full of cash quickly allayed any lingering doubts that he might have had about returning. Number 10. Mark Hamill compared the film's secrecy to being in the CIA. While every Star Wars movie is produced under a sure veil of secrecy, J.J. Abrams and company took this cloak and dagger approach especially seriously whilst shooting the conclusion to the Skywalker Saga. Even before filming started, Mark Hamill said that the revised pages of the script were hand-delivered by a Disney rep who flew to meet him. And while he was allowed to keep pages of The Last Jedi script overnight by locking them in a safe, for The Rise of Skywalker, he had to hand them them back after reading. Hilariously, Hamill had a unique comparison for the aggressive secrecy surrounding the script. It's like working for some secret deep state government organization, like being in the CIA. In addition to this, The Rise of Skywalker was released without any external test screenings, and even Abrams himself hadn't seen the final cut until literally days before it hit cinemas. Number 9. It borrowed one major idea from George Lucas. Though George Lucas's original ideas for a potential sequel trilogy were largely thrown out of the window when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, one of his significant discarded concepts for the original trilogy did in fact make it into The Rise of Skywalker. Near the end of the film, during her climactic battle with Palpatine, Rey hears the voices of various departed Jedi, including ObiWan, as voiced by both Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Mace Windu, who give Rey the resolve to continue fighting. The idea of having departed Jedi provide the hero with a morale boost came from Lucas's original script for Return of the Jedi almost 40 years prior, where the Force ghosts of Obi-Wan and Yoda show up to shield Luke Skywalker from the Emperor's lightning attack and deflect it. Lucas ultimately abandoned the idea, but the ditched scene ended up laying the groundwork for Rey's own Force assist at the end of this movie. Number 8. Dominic Monaghan won his role due to a bet with J.J. Abrams. Dominic Monaghan has a small role in the film as Resistance Trooper, and while you might assume that J.J. Abrams simply put him in the movie due to their friendship, seeing as the pair had previously worked together on Lost, it was actually the result of a bet. When Abrams was rewriting the script before shooting, he and Dominic made a bet on the outcome of the 2018 World Cup between England and Colombia. They basically said, if England beat Colombia, you're in. And I was like, oh mate, you bastard. Thankfully, the nail-biting match worked out in Dominic's favour, with England winning 4-3 on penalties and securing his place in The Rise of Skywalker. We like to think that Abrams would have relented to let his pal join the cast anyway, but you never know. Number 7. Maz Kanata was entirely animatronic. Maz Kanata briefly reappeared in the film, and while you'd be understood for assuming that the character was once again achieved through state-of-the-art VFX, as in the two previous films, she was actually entirely practical this time around. J.J. Abrams preferred to use tangible effects wherever possible, and so insisted upon an animatronic puppet for Maz in The Rise of Skywalker. And so for the film, Industrial Light and Magic's creature effects supervisor Neil Scanlon went about creating one of the most complex puppets in cinema history. He said, in this case, we used a data suit that was worn by a puppeteer, and as that person would move, Maz would mimic it. There was a puppeteer who was responsible for the dialogue, and there was a puppeteer responsible for the eyeline and the expressions. Those puppeteers could be right next to JJ, and they could see Maz, and they could be in the scene. Considering that pretty much anyone who saw the film assumed that Maz was once again a digital creation, this was most certainly a job well done. Number 6. Matt Smith was in talks for a secret role. In August 2018, the same month that the film began shooting, it was reported that Matt Smith had joined the cast in a secret role, which of course turned out to be untrue. Nevertheless, in recent times, Smith has confirmed that he was indeed in talks for a juicy part, albeit without confirming the precise nature of the role. He said, "We were very close to me being in it, but then it just never quite happened. I think the thing they were thinking of me for, eventually the part became obsolete and they didn't need it, so I never got to be in Star Wars." Smith later called it a transformative Star Wars story detail, and rumours have swirled for years that he was originally set to play a dark side acolyte whose body ends up being possessed by Palpatine. As goofy as that sounds, Smith's presence as a quasi-reincarnated Palpatine would have certainly been interesting to behold. Number 5. 500,000 gallons of water were used for the Death Star set. Now later in the movie, Rey ends up facing off against Kylo Ren atop the crashed ruins of the second Death Star, which has become completely waterlogged after falling into the ocean. To achieve a convincingly moist set, the crew used water cannons to pump 5,000 gallons of water for every single take, and after 3 days of filming, this reportedly amounted to 500,000 gallons of water being pumped. And yet, this pales in comparison to the amount of digital water used for the choppy ocean current surrounding Rey and Kylo during their fight. A total of 4.2 million gallons was simulated through CGI. Number 4. Billie Lourd wore the same outfit her mother did in Return of the Jedi. Carrie Fisher's daughter Billie Lourd reprised her sequel trilogy role of Lieutenant Cadel Coe Connix in the film. Yet with this being the first Star Wars movie Lourd participated in since her mother's passing, J.J. Abrams came up with a wardrobe-based tribute. Connix had a relatively small background role throughout the film, but eagle-eyed fans might have noticed that she wears an extremely similar outfit, Leia's camouflage-style getup while on Endor in Return of the Jedi, with Lourd's hair even being styled in the same fashion. To complete the symmetry, Lourd was also 26 years old at the time of shooting, which is precisely the same age that her mother was whilst filming the third entry in the original trilogy. As George Lucas once famously said, "It's like poetry, it rhymes." Number 3. The digital release was brought forward due to the pandemic. Now, the film was originally intended to be released on digital platforms on Tuesday, March 17, 2020, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic forcing large swathes of the world to stay inside, Disney decided to bring the release forward by 4 days, dropping it on Friday, March the 13th instead, just 2 days after WHO declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. Even though The Rise of Skywalker fell short of expectations for a lot of fans, it was still a neat and unexpected gesture by Disney to drop the film early on digital and help keep those sheltering at home entertained during a period of major anxiety and uncertainty. Number 2. Adam Driver recorded some of his dialogue in his house. The Star Wars franchise's long-tenured supervising sound editor Matthew Wood confirmed that some of Kylo Ren's dialogue in the film wasn't actually recorded on set or in a professional recording studio, but in Adam Driver's own home. Just a few weeks before the film's release, changes to the script required Driver to record a few lines for his character, but with Driver's schedule being so busy, Wood ended up visiting the actor's Brooklyn home to capture the dialogue. He said, "The very last recording we did was, well, we had to change some of the lines of Kylo when he had his mask on, so I went to Driver's house in Brooklyn. I ended up opening up one of his closets where he had all of these suits, and I just pushed the suits out of the way and said, 'Hang your head in there.'" It's hilarious to picture Adam Driver ducking his head into his own closet and speaking as Kylo Ren, all while J.J. Abrams monitors the recording session via video call back in Los Angeles. And yet, you'd be hard-pressed to identify the hastily recorded dialogue in the final cut of the movie. And number 1, Alec Guinness's granddaughter played a First Order officer. Star Wars is all about family above all else, of course, and so it's fitting that J.J. Abrams managed to include the descendant of a departed franchise legend in a small cameo role. Sally Guinness, herself an actress and the granddaughter of original Obi-Wan Kenobi actor Alec Guinness, appears briefly in the film as a First Order officer during the scene where Kylo Ren addresses a council. As cute a cameo as this is, it's also mildly hilarious that the granddaughter of one of the most prominent heroes in the Star Wars franchise ended up playing a grunt on the other side. And there we go, my friends. Those were 20 things you didn't know about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. We can swing by Instagram where it's the same handle, RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. I hope that you're treating yourself well with love and respect, my friend, because you deserve all the best things in life. Yes, you do, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? You're a massive ledge, and I want you to go out there and smash it today. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.